It's time for this week's Pastors Forum. I'm Byron Tyler. Pleasure, friend, to have you stop by as we get together with an area pastor to talk about their heartbeat for ministry, something about their family, and we'll just discover all kinds of fun stuff here on the program. Thank you for stopping by. This week we have Pastor Mike Arnold. Mike, it's good to have you here, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure to be here.
Recently you hopped in on a program with Miss Carol Jackson.
Yes.
With Families Matter. That, of course, is really where you are right now.
Right.
On staff, working as a Families Matter Fatherhood Educator.
Yes.
Is that the official title?
Well, that's what it is currently, but I'm actually transitioning to the Faith Community Relations Manager for the program.
Okay.
And, of course, we'll talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we want to talk about that. We also want to talk about the AFIRM program, which
Yes.
you've been involved with. And I'm assuming that responsibility will continue. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay.
for sure.
I got to share this fun fact about your dad, Mike Arnold Sr.
Yes.
Because we just came off recently the Super Bowl number 59.
Right.
Your dad attended Super Bowl number 2.
That's correct.
In Miami.
Yes.
Miami, Florida, with his college football teammates.
Right.
The team was Fairmont State University
That's right.
that he played for,
Uh-huh.
and they earned a trip to the Super Bowl because they won the NAIA National Football Championship.
Wow. You did your homework, man. That's exactly right. My dad was a part of the national championship team for FSU, Fairmont State University, and one of the rewards was that for them to go to the Super Bowl. And so I have a game program from that he passed on to me. It's got Ray Nitschke and some other other autographs rather from that. So it's a heirloom, I guess, if you will, for us.
Boy, that is special. Can you imagine taking a college team to the Super Bowl now? I mean, I think what tickets are something like I don't have any
astronomical.
idea.
Yeah. I don't even know. I'm sure it's in the thousands just to sit in the nosebleed,
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So yeah.
Oh, what's a hot dog cost, right?
Right, for sure.
Well, I'll tell you, I had the privilege of meeting your dad. Mm-hmm. What a man of God. His smile was contagious.
Yeah.
A nice wit, but just a warm heart. And
yes,
I know you miss him.
Oh yeah. He never met a stranger.
Yeah.
And he was my hero for sure. Some people would say athletes or actors, but Mike Arnold Sr. was definitely my hero for sure.
Okay, your sister Roz,
Yes.
Roz Martin, married to Julian.
Uh-huh.
Now, are you the older brother or are you the baby?
I'm the older brother. My sister will be sure to tell you that, but just by about 5 or 6 years. But it's my baby sister. But I'm so proud of them. They've been married. This year will be 25 years. And they're doing great things in the church world and in the community.
Well, that connects us with another special person, and that is your mom, Aretha Arnold.
Yes.
Aretha worked here with us at Bot Radio Network as the community engagement person and got out there and met people. Boy,
Yes.
she was on the go always.
Always. I meet a lot of pastors and a lot of them still remember my mom being out in the community, and they always ask, "How's your mom doing?" So that brought her a lot of life in her season here at Bot Radio. So it was really a great time.
We miss Miss Aretha, and thank God for really the legacy and the heritage, the godly heritage that both your mom and dad. Would you say, Mike?
Oh, definitely. Just thankful growing up in a Christian home. Mom and dad were involved in ministry. My dad got a job here in Memphis. We were originally from West Virginia, but came here, got involved in the community right away. My mom and dad always were involved with young people and families, and so that was a part of my sister and I's really our life and what we do, and so it's kind of like second nature for us.
Right. Now, your mom, I understand, was involved with media, like teaching video. I'm trying to remember now.
Yeah, that's correct. She got a degree from Memphis State then, and taught television production for then Shelby State Community College, and did that for a number of years.
Yeah, how about that?
Yep.
Now, one of the last times that you and I got together, you were pastoring a church. I'm trying to remember the name now.
Yeah. I was a pastor, a church planter and pastor for about 12 years for Kingdom Life Church. And it was a great opportunity, had an opportunity to reach out to the community, just great opportunity to share the gospel and live that out for 12 years. But like anything, you have a season for everything.
Yes.
And we ended that season ended a few years ago, but God opened a tremendous door for me in what I'm currently doing now with Families Matter. And so that's the
great.
ministry that God has afforded me to be a part of now.
Well, that's something about it. I think when we hold on to things too tight, when the Lord's telling us to let go.
Yes.
Because that can happen, right? And especially in the ministry, I've seen that even on the mission field. We served overseas, people that serve the Lord be very possessive of their titles and of their position and what they've accomplished, and I mean, you got to be careful.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that my parents taught us was about being servant leaders and how important that is, because as a servant leader, you never really have a title. You're a servant. Yep. And so for us, whether it's serving in the church, serving in the community, the common denominator is serving. And so that's been a part of our legacy and what we've been able to do.
Right. Now, the AFIRM program that is something that you're connected with now through Families Matter is a project that's funded under a grant contract with the state of Tennessee.
Yes.
We talked about that on our Mid-South Viewpoint show. Why don't we just recap exactly what AFIRM is?
Sure. So Families Matter, of course, started about 20 years ago, working with young fathers, new fathers, seasoned fathers. And the Lord opened up a door about almost 2.5 years ago where we would work specifically under a new project called the AFIRM Project, which stands for Father's Involvement Really Matters. And it gives us an opportunity to work with fathers specifically who are not in the home, or also that they have child support challenges. And so in that, it gives us an opportunity to remove any barriers that may be in there for fathers. Oftentimes in our society, especially, fathers may not necessarily have the resources they need in order to take care of their children that we found. Yep. And so this was sponsored by the state of Tennessee, which is a very unique opportunity because we're one of only 2 states in the entire nation that are actually doing this type of program.
Okay.
Tennessee and Florida. And then in Tennessee, we're the only organization that's doing this for fathers here in our area.
And so, Mike, sometimes you find dads who maybe feel isolated and unable to provide the emotional and financial support for their children. And your desire with AFIRM is to help them be the best dads they can be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think a lot of times we don't realize the barriers that are there, whether it's finding a job, whether it's getting education, whether it's upskill, development. Those things are important because as men, as fathers, we want to be providers. But the reality is there's challenges that happen for any of us. And so they're not necessarily looking for a hand out. They're looking for a hand up. And that's what we provide for the AFIRM program.
Sometimes it's just being in the right environment, right?
Yes.
And having that encouragement, that motivation. I know you guys work very closely with mentors that come alongside these men.
That's correct. So one of my jobs is to work as a mentor and have other mentors to come in to work with the men. Primarily, we started out as 18 to 40. Recently, that age cap has been taken off, so it's anyone 18 and up. But the fact of the matter is that we're trying to work with men. A lot of times they haven't gotten the playbook, Byron, in terms of what fatherhood looks like. They don't have the blueprint. And so in our discussions, oftentimes they're only repeating what was done to them or what they saw. Yeah. And so the mentoring piece is very important because now we're kind of helping to change the trajectory in terms of what fatherhood looks like for them, and also saying, hey, when you know better, you can do better.
You've worked with guys that are benefiting from the instruction, from those mentorships that you offer.
Absolutely. I'll tell you a quick story. We had a gentleman who was incarcerated and had some issues, had a kind of a checkered past. We don't look at that. We're only focusing what's going forward for individuals. And so he got out of prison. We were able to connect him to an internship with Blue Oval, the Blue Oval City Project. And so he went from being incarcerated to making about $90,000 a year.
Oh, my.
That's transformational.
That is.
Right? And so those are the type of things that we're looking to do to help gentlemen trying to go get HVAC licenses and also with CDLs and things of that nature where we're empowering men to be able to be providers for their families.
Oh, Mike, this is really beautiful. And so there's another aspect, as you mentioned, as we open up the show, about you working with pastors and churches.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes. So in my new role, I started actually in the fall last year, of now connecting to the faith community. A little bit about my background as a pastor and working here in the community for a number of years, I've developed relationships over the years. We know, and you know, and of course, Bot Radio knows, we believe that local church is the answer to the world because we are ambassadors for Jesus Christ. And so in that, it's important for us to be able to make the connection in the community alongside the local church. We believe that the local church has the answers for our community. It's not politics, it's not position, it's the local church, and with Jesus being the head of that.
Amen. I love that. So as you communicate the message of AFIRM and what Family Matters is trying to do, how are you being received among churches?
It's been going well so far. You know, everything that we do, and just like Jesus, it's about relationships. And so we look to build relationships. And we know as pastors that reaching men can be a challenge, right, if we're honest about that. And so in that, we want to encourage them to know that this is an avenue where you can reach men in our community. In fact, we encourage them to really take ownership of the AFIRM program because it really doesn't belong to Families Matter. We're just stewards of it.
Yes.
And so we encourage the local pastors to say, let's connect with you. How can this be and add value to what you're doing in your local congregation?
So are these like ways that churches would sponsor individuals, maybe connecting members of their own congregations that might need the help of AFIRM?
All of the above.
Okay.
So there's no cookie cutter because every church is different what their needs may be.
Right.
So we come alongside to say, how can we best serve you? So there may be some that are saying, hey, I need someone to work directly with our men, to come alongside them. Some may say, well, hey, this is an opportunity for us to have an outreach where we can sponsor what you're doing. And most importantly, more than anything else, prayer.
Yes.
That this is an opportunity for them to pray for us, to connect with us, because we all believe in the power of prayer. Prayer changes things, right? And so helping to transform lives, I believe, starts through prayer. And so there are a number of ways that they can be a part of our program.
Well, we're going to have to start wrapping up the show for this week and come back and continue the conversation. There's more I want to discuss. And I'm sure those listening, especially pastors and those on church staff, that maybe for the first time they've heard of this opportunity to join with Families Matter and what AFIRM is doing. Something is so needed in our community, and I would say not just our community, but communities all across the United States.
Absolutely.
And so we'll talk more about that. So if somebody wanted to contact you, Pastor Mike, and know more about AFIRM, Families Matter, your ministry, maybe have you come and fill the pulpit for them sometime.
Absolutely.
What can they do?
Sure. Well, there are a number of ways. Number one, they can call 901-445-0115. Again, that's 901-445-0115. Or they can go to AFIRMMemphis.com. And that's one F with AFIRM, AFIRMMemphis.com.
Okay, and find out the information there. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll look forward to picking this conversation up next week.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, friends, thanks for joining us this week on Pastors Forum with our guest, Pastor Mike Arnold with Families Matter and the AFIRM program, looking to communicate and connect with churches in our community. We're going to pick up this conversation next time right here on Pastors Forum on Bot Radio Network. I'm Byron Tyler, and we'll talk to you then. Bye-bye. Welcome back to this week's Pastors Forum. I'm Byron Tyler. Pleasure, friend, to have you stop by. I hope you have enjoyed your day of worship with your family of faith, lifting up praise to God, being rooted in the Word, and making disciples of all nations as we as the church is called to do. And we're so thankful to have pastors in our community who are here to equip the saints. I didn't say replace the saints now. I said equip the saints, because we're the one that's supposed to do the work of the ministry, and they're being trained as pastors to preach in the power of the Holy Spirit, to teach us, to exhort us, so we might go out and do the work. And last week we had the privilege of having a dear friend of mine, Pastor Mike Arnold. Mike is on staff with Families Matter, and this is a great group. Carol Jackson, many of you know, Carol has been pouring, her and Herman together have poured their heart into this ministry. They have been on staff now for about 15 years, I think it is.
about 15 years, right.
And this course work started about 20 years ago. But it didn't come alive until Miss Carol came. God has been using Families Matter, and he's always raised up wonderful leaders. Carol Jackson and her team is just doing a wonderful job. We've had them on Mid-South Viewpoint here recently, and we've talked about that work. And Pastor Mike was here with them. And I thought, well, we have to get you back, Mike.
Well, thank you for having me back.
on Pastors Forum,
Absolutely.
and talk. You have a heart for pastors.
Yes.
Now, we mentioned your dad, the late Mike Arnold Sr.,
Yes.
who was a fabulous man. He wasn't a pastor, was he?
Well, he actually probably should have been in ministry, but he came from the old school in terms of taking care of your family. So he was in corporate America for a number of years, but the last several years of his life, he had an opportunity to work in ministry at the Neighborhood Christian Center. So he enjoyed that immensely. So yes.
You pastored Kingdom Life Church for about 12 years.
Yes.
Now, were you pastoring before you planted Kingdom Life?
I was on a staff at another church.
Okay.
As a youth pastor, youth and young adult.
Okay. But you planted this church, Kingdom Life, and we had you on Pastors Forum to talk about this ministry. Now, am I correct in remembering that you met at the museum?
Yes, we met at the museum. We first started at Neighborhood Christian Center for a few years, and then the Lord opened a door for us to meet at the Pink Palace.
Yes.
And so that was a fun time, a unique time for us as well. And, God always amazes us on how he does things.
What has been the most intriguing thing, Mike, that you have learned being in ministry, just walking with God and seeing his faithfulness to you? We talk about God being faithful in our lives, but as a pastor and stepping out in faith to plant a church, what has intrigued you most about his presence, the way he's worked in your life?
Well, as always, I'm thankful that he chose me.
Yeah.
I didn't choose it, but he chose me. And but I'm thankful for his faithfulness, as you mentioned, knowing that God will use anyone as long as they're available. And that's what I've learned, availability, how important that is, being a vessel, how important that is, and allowing the Spirit of God to use you, allowing God to use you to complete his work, because he needs us to be his ambassadors, his representatives. And so next year will be 30 years for me actually in ministry altogether.
Right.
And I'm thankful for that.
Yes.
And so during that time and during this season of my life, even now, I'm just always thankful that he opens doors for me to walk through to bring glory to his name.
Oh, I love that. I was just thinking about the disciples when they were proclaiming the things of God, testifying what Christ had done, and they say, "Who are these men? They're just fishermen."
You're right, for sure.
But they had experienced Christ, that they had met with the Savior.
Yes. They had an encounter.
Yes.
Right? That Jesus, with the fishermen, said that there was something bigger than these fish, that I want you to be fishers of men. And he cast vision to them. Yes. And I think that's the thing. When you have a vision for your life, when you have a vision and understand that you've been created for a purpose and for ultimately to glorify God, I think that's the thing for me that continues to burn even almost 30 years in this.
And I think that's where every human heart is, until we find our identity in the purpose we were created for, which was to glorify God ultimately.
Yes.
And he paved the way for us to do that through the gospel, through Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection. So we have that opportunity.
That's right. And the thing is, I was meeting with some people last week, and we were talking about that it's more than just salvation. It's more than just a membership. But what is it that God has created you to do and to be and to influence and to impact when you leave this earth? We God gives us deposits, but what do we do with those deposits? Do we sit on them? Do we just keep them to ourselves? Or do we look to have influence and impact for the kingdom?
I don't know if you do this, Mike, but I do, and I do it often. I wonder, Lord, am I where you want me?
Right.
Am I doing what you want me to do?
Right.
I don't want to mess it up.
That's right.
I want to make sure I'm hearing your voice. Lord, am I pleasing you where I'm at?
That's right. That's right. And I think that's important. Ultimately, I tell people all the time, accolades are fine here.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we want to hear, well done, thy good and faithful servant.
Yes.
And I think part of that comes with having that relationship, that intimate relationship with the Lord. I got saved at a young age. I was 6 years old. I walked down an aisle at Olivet Baptist Church in Memphis, Tennessee here. And but prior to that, my mother, Aretha, was planting seeds in my heart by sharing the gospel with me through a little cartoon book about the gospel.
Yes.
And so at 6 years old, I said, there's more to life than just riding a bike, more to life than playing outside.
Yes.
But ultimately, it allowed me to see that there's a greater purpose for me and for all of us to try to fulfill.
So you mentioned New Olivet. Now, was Pastor Whalum, was he the pastor at that time?
Senior.
Yeah,
yes.
senior. That's
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying.
Yes, senior.
Yes.
So I was baptized in that church many moons ago, but had a tremendous impact on me.
His son, he's got two, I don't know, all the family. I know there's Kirk and Kenneth.
Right, and Kevin.
And there's Kevin also,
Yes.
okay? And the Whalums have kind of, they're in the music world too.
Right.
But Kenneth, of course, formerly a school board member and also has pastored the church, New Olivet Church now.
Correct.
Kenneth did a show here with me for a couple of years. We talked about education. It was a live calling show.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed doing that.
Yes.
But I know the Whalum family has had a solid ministry in the community for many, many years.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Well, as we talk about identity and talk about the work that you're doing now with AFIRM through the ministry of Families Matter, AFIRM, again, just to repeat from last week, there is it's a project that's funded under a grant contract with the state of Tennessee. And let me ask you that, Mike, because some people say, well, if you're doing ministry, why are you connected to a government, thing?
Right.
Can you explain that?
Absolutely. Well, I believe, and I know with the organization, that there are opportunities out there for faith-based organizations, and we're blessed in this state that the governor saw fit that we needed to make sure that we empower the local church and faith-based organizations. And so for us, it's important to be able to use those resources for God's glory. And so that's one of the things that we've been able to do with this particular grant, with this particular opportunity that the state of Tennessee has provided. And so oftentimes there's a challenge with the local church or organizations with finances, if we're honest, sometimes because you have so many different things going. And so this is one way where we're able to do kingdom work through this vehicle.
Yeah, you're taking low-income men who learning to become the best dads they can be,
Right.
helping them provide the emotional and financial support for their children.
Yes.
And helping the financial support is not just giving them money,
Right.
but helping them get the jobs they need so they can work and make the money.
Absolutely. And that's important, again, as we mentioned, I think, in a prior show, is that men want to be providers.
Yes.
And opportunities sometimes can be challenging. And so with us being able to empower them to be able to do so makes a difference, whether it's through jobs or education opportunities, be able to upskill a little bit in terms of their own personal development, can speak volumes to helping them grow as fathers.
I met one of the young men who came through your program that was very vocal about his love for you guys. He had his PhD.
Yes.
But he was kind of misdirected.
Right.
And you guys got him on track.
Right. Dr. Sam Williams, want to give him a shout out. He's a biochemist by trade, just fell on some hard times. And sometimes with life, we know families break up, things happen, but he was in a downward spiral. And the Lord brought him back into our organization. And I say brought back because actually, indirectly, I didn't tell you this last time, I actually met him about 30 years ago when I was doing youth ministry at Streets Ministries.
Okay.
And so how God brings things full circle, where we were able now to work with him as an adult. And he was at a very low point in his life, and God directed him to our organization, and he's been able to make some changes to get on the right path.
We hear stories like that that are so exciting, and I was thinking about it's in the news lately because of the Ezekiel Kelly trial that's coming up, and we know the horrible things that took place. But I was talking to one of his former teachers when he was in like third grade, and she was just talking about just what a lively young man, just very respectful, loving life. And it just broke her heart when she turns on the TV and sees what happened.
Right, tragic
thing happened. You guys are trying to stop that from happening.
Absolutely. When you look at the statistics here, and even in our county, almost half of the households in Shelby County are fatherless. And when you look at statistics where we say 85% of those who are incarcerated come from fatherless homes. And so the impact that fathers have, a father's involvement really matters. Now, I don't know what Mr. Kelly's parental situation was, but if I was a betting man, pretty sure his father wasn't there.
Yeah.
And so for us, we're trying to help young men to understand that you count, that the impact of fatherhood is immensely important. And so being able to empower them educationally, financially, giving them an opportunity to express themselves, because emotionally that you mentioned,
Yes.
a lot of our fathers suffer emotionally
Yes.
because they're dealing with rejection, they're dealing with all kinds of things, not being there with their children. And the misnomer out there is that sometimes people think that they don't want to take care of their children, but
Right.
they actually do.
Yes.
It's just because of limited resources and opportunities.
Okay, Mike, last time we mentioned this new position you're moving
Yes.
into now to help connect with pastors.
Yes.
We don't have a lot of time, but I
Okay.
want to make sure we don't leave without
Yes.
reminding our pastors listening.
Yes.
This is an opportunity for them to engage Families Matter in this program AFIRM.
Absolutely. So for all the pastors that are listening, we know your job is hard and reaching men especially, and maybe even in your community. And so we want to let you know that we want to provide an outlet where we can come alongside you to provide our services and working with fathers and working with communities, whether they're in your church or outside of your church or in your neighborhood. And so we want to be able to connect with you, whether it's through prayer, whether it's through serving, whatever we can do to bring value to what you're doing, we're available. And so we appreciate any opportunity where we can connect, because we can do more together than apart.
Oh, I love that. So what's the best way to contact you?
Yes. So the best way to contact me is that you can reach me, our office, at 901-445-0115. Again, that's 901-445-0115. Or they can go to AFIRMMemphis.com, and that's one F, AFIRMMemphis.com.
Pastor Mike, this has been great. Thank you for these past 2 weeks
Yes, sir. Thank you.
here on Pastors Forum. Well, friends, that's all the time we have on this week's program here on Bot Radio Network, Pastors Forum. I'm Byron Tyler. Thanks for stopping by. We'll talk to you next week with a new pastor. Bye-bye now.